Jesus Christ.
Why do we call the gospel as good news? Well, because there are many bad news. Sometimes we call them signs of the times. And I'm sure we keep ourselves updated because somebody said we have the tendency to go to the left and to the right. But in our journey of faith, we have our destination to go straight to the Father. Your mother and your brothers are outside asking to talk with you. This passage is perhaps one of the most misquoted passages in the Bible to justify the belief that Mary is not a virgin because Jesus had brothers and sisters. That is what we call fundamentalist or literal interpretation because of the problem of communication. In Greek, the word that is used is adelphoi. It means relatives. Jesus, interestingly, is reminding us today that we are members of a bigger family called humanity and the family of God. We also speak of extended family. Kasama na doon yung mga alaga nating mga hayop, yung mga malapit sa ating puso, sa ating buhay, extended family. Today, our reflection revolves around family and our how to do God's will. As Jesus said, those who do the will of the Father, they are my mother, sister, and brothers. Jesus actually affirms Mary because she is the first disciple and the most faithful of all, seeking to do the will of God and doing it in her life. I was reminded of one incident in the life of Nelson Mandela. I'm sure you must have heard the name. Nelson Mandela was an African lawyer who belonged to the Methodist Church. So he was a believer. And he firmly believed in the message of Jesus that we are all equals as brothers and sisters, sons and daughters of the Eternal Father. So he embraced the cause against apartheid, the tendency to separate the black from the others. And he fought so hard that they wanted to eliminate him because of his influence as a leader. So to make the long story short, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. And after 22 years of being imprisoned, he was released. And that started his new life. he got elected as president of South Africa, and he made a difference. So there is that incident. One day, he was already elected president. He asked some of his friends to go out to the street to eat at a nearby restaurant. And so while they were there, seated and chatting, Mandela noticed a beggar outside, and he told his companion, his bodyguard, go out and call that man to join us at the table. So he did, and the poor beggar was shaking his hands and could not even look up. But he obeyed. He sat down beside Mandela without saying any word. After that, he begged to go. And the man on his right said, he must be real sick. Look how his hands trembled, and he seems to be in fear. And Mandela said, no, he's not sick. I know him. He was one of my jail guards who punished me severely. And I remember I was so exhausted one day, so I had to shout, asking for a glass of water. And this man came to piss on my head. Instead of giving me water, he urinated. Inihian niya ako. So maybe that's the reason why the man was trembling in fear, knowing that his victim is now the new president, makapangyarihang tao. It struck me that this man lived his faith. Hindi siya naghiganti. Hindi niya binerikan ang kasamaan ng taong ito. But he tried to be nice and to extend his brotherhood to him. So this is one example today, what it means to live in a new normal with our relationship with God. Question, what happens if we put God at the center of our relationship? So I found this beautiful formula. We plus God plus career equals success. We plus God plus family equals happiness. We plus God plus service equals solidarity. We plus God plus God's grace means blessedness. So that is what balanced spirituality is. Putting God at the center of our life, right at the center of our relationship, be it with our profession, with our own blood family members, with our desire to be of help, to serve, and more important, to receive God's grace and blessings. So this is the message. Let us live the new normal that Jesus wants us to live. God at the center, not COVID-19, not the restrictions, not the prohibitions. They serve only as reminders. You notice every beginning of the Mass we have a reminder how to keep social distancing and order, because we are afraid not only to be infected, but also to infect others. We care. Nais nating ipalaganap ang kagalingan ng lahat. So, the new pastoral letter of our CBCP is asking us for more prayers because of the succession of intimidations and lots of prohibitions. There is a more recent event that is even more frightening, that is now spreading. You heard about the president of Russia, President Putin, who signed a new law to prohibit any religious gathering, that you cannot even read the Bible if there is an unbeliever, that you cannot even talk about your faith. That is what we call exaggeration, closing all the doors for Christ. In Asia, the same thing. The Asian Federation of Bishops, they also came out with a letter asking for prayers so that we can be reminded that we are not alone, that we are witnessing for God's family, for God's good news, that we are members, you and I, of God's big family of love. Nothing to do with the color of the skin, and regardless of one's beliefs, intellectual beliefs, we should strive to be more open and to consider others as equals, members of the family of God. So today we have the inspiration of a great saint, Lawrence of Brindisi, an Italian Franciscan Capuchin who was a gifted preacher like Francis. He was fluent in 6 and 7 languages, so he had a facility to communicate, and he was highly successful. Even if the Capuchin friars wanted to re-elect him as their superior general, he humbly declined. He preferred to preach, to share the good news of God's love. God-centered missionary and inspiration, Saint Lawrence of Brindisi, intercede for us so that we too may be inspired by your life to put God at the center of our hearts. Let us rise.